Hello, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Grays, the podcast where we dissect sex, relationships, emotional chaos, all through the lens of Grey's Anatomy. I am so glad you're back. I'm your host, Crystal Rose Napolitano. I'm a sexologist. I'm a Grey's super fan, and just so excited to be back again for another episode talking about this amazing show. I went for a walk with my friend yesterday and we sat by the river, and she's a fellow Grey's super fan. And we just sat by the river in the sun in Bordeaux, and we just talked about the characters and the character development, and we just geeked out essentially on Grey's Anatomy. And I just couldn't help but think, like, oh my gosh, this is just the best because we both have so much knowledge on Grey's. She's seen this show through so many times, and so she knows her shit just like I do. And it was just so, I don't know, like satisfying to my nerdy brain when it comes to Grey's Anatomy. So I'm really excited to dive into this episode with you. But before we dive into the episode, make sure you go into the show notes and grab my free couples connection guide. I designed a little fun PDF for you to be able to reconnect with your partner in less than 10 minutes using kind of games and connection exercises. And I hope you enjoy it. Let me know if you download it. And let's dive into our content because it's a beautiful day to save sex lives. So today's episode theme, I'm so excited to get into it. The entire episode is going to be about avoidance. So we've touched on avoidance a little bit in this podcast before, but this episode is specifically written about, like, the theme of this episode is procrastination. And whoever's watching this video podcast, you'll see my cat's tail coming in and out. For those of you who don't know, my cat's name is Lorax. She's incredible and hilarious, and so she might come in and out of the episodes. But our episode theme is about avoidance. And the writer of the episode, Krista Vernoff, literally says, it's documented that she says it's about procrastination, which is avoidance, right? Procrastination is just another form of avoidance. So we're going to look at this through the relationship lens and the connection and attachment lens today. And by the end of this episode, you're going to be able to have kind of an idea of what avoidance feels like in the body and what actual fear is and what to do about it and how this is keeping you from intimacy and forming deeper relationships, and to be able to create choice where you've been avoiding before. And literally in one of Meredith's voiceovers in this episode, she says, "He who hesitates is lost." And I agree. I think that when we get stuck in this avoidance and procrastination, we are lost. We are avoiding something that needs to be felt or needs to be decided on or needs to be opened up and explored. And we're lost in trying to continue that dynamic. So we're going to unpack that a little bit more later in the episode, but let's dive into all of the specs about this fun episode of Grey's Anatomy. So we are season 1, episode 6 of Grey's Anatomy. The air date is May 1st, 2005. And the episode name is If Tomorrow Never Comes, a song by Garth Brooks. So the song is so perfect for this episode because this episode is literally about procrastination, seizing the day, what happens if we wait, all of that. So excellent choice. And fun fact number 1. So this episode had 18.54 million viewers, and it was achieving a record high for the show. And based on the strong ratings from the first episodes of season 1, the show's renewal for a second season was announced shortly after this episode was launched. So this is a really important episode in the series of Grey's Anatomy. So yeah, it's move through these first 6 episodes, and now we know we're getting a second season. And here we are 22 seasons later, but hey, this is where it kicked it all off. And fun fact number 2, so the episode was written, like I said, by Krista Vernoff, and she would later go on to be the showrunner for several seasons. So she revealed in the original storyline, there's a woman in the episode that has a massive tumor that she hasn't taken care of for a year and a half. She's just watched it grow on her body for a year and a half. And later in writing, she decided that that character had to die when originally she was going to have that character live. But since the show's theme or the episode's theme was procrastination, she said, the message I wanted to give was not, hey, it's okay to put off going to see a doctor for 2 years because it all turns out right in the end, which is a really bold choice in writing. And I think it's really important to have that choice for this episode, because we're not trying to show procrastination gets you what you want or gets you a healthy life or a healthy body or a long life. This character was 43 years old and dies on the operating table. So it was a really powerful choice for an episode about procrastination. And fun fact number 3, this is the first episode of the series to have a gray matter blog post. So gray matter was a blog that was later started in season 2 about the episodes, but then there was a gap between season 2 and 3, and they went back and wrote for this episode. And so I went and read the blog post about this episode. It was written by Krista Vernoff, and I'm linking it in the show notes if you want to read it. It's a blog post about her talking about them getting ready to write this episode, all the other writers she was with, her writing process, her choice to kill off this character, her submitting the script to Shonda Rhimes and Shonda's reaction to it. So go read it if you like. But one of the quotes and I thought was really powerful from the blog post, because this episode is about, seizing the day, procrastination, avoidance. This is a quote from the blog post. She's talking about how all of these things the characters are going through is life and death. And she says, and the truth as I see it is this: it's always a matter of life and death every day, even if you're not a doctor, even if you're not saving lives or risking them, because the thing is, we all die eventually, and sometimes without much warning. Amazing. It's a great quote. It's a great blog, just to kind of get an insider's view into what writing an episode of Grey's Anatomy is like. Most of the Grey Matter blogs are since taken down, but if you go into the link I leave you in the show notes, you can read some of the blog posts, and at any time there is one, I'll be linking it in the show notes, so you'll be able to follow along with what's happening. So that is our fun fact number 3. And my geek out moment of this episode. So this is a different type of geek out. It has nothing to do with romance, but I have seen this episode several times. I just watched it in prep to record this episode, and every time I watch it, this moment moves me. So they have a character named Mr. Levangie, and he has Parkinson's that's advancing very, very quickly. And he's refusing to get brain surgery that can maybe help him. And eventually he consents to it because his daughter wants him to be able to walk her down the aisle. And the entire episode, he's shaking uncontrollably. His entire body is shaking. He doesn't have any quality of life. It's very, very sad. And so in the OR, he's getting brain surgery while awake. His brain is open. Derek Shepherd is operating, and Meredith is in front of him holding his hand. And the nurse is trying to get him to just do a simple motion where he touches his hands together and then flips his hand and then touches the back of his hand to the palm of his other hand, and just do that motion over and over. And he gets really frustrated because his hands are shaking so much that he can't do it. And we see the probes going into his brain, like the X-ray image of it. And Derek Shepherd puts a probe into his brain, and you see his hands slowly stop shaking. And he's able to start doing the motion, like as if he has control over his hands. And even now, as I'm describing it, I'm like, my eyes are getting a little bit teary because it's so beautiful, this moment. And the patient is just like, oh my gosh, like I can have use of my hands again. And it's this beautiful moment. It's filmed so well. It's acted so well. And seriously, this moment just touches me so deeply every time, to see this patient get control of their body again. It's so beautiful. Go watch it. I mean, I want you to watch every moment that I geek out on, but like really go watch this one because it's so beautiful. And now to start our episode with Meredith's voiceover intro. And as always, it just sets us up so beautifully. So her intro is: a couple of 100 years ago, Benjamin Franklin shared with the world the secret of his success. Never leave that till tomorrow, he said, which you can do today. This is the man who discovered electricity. You'd think more of us would listen to what he had to say. I don't know why we put things off, but if I had to guess, I'd say it has a lot to do with fear. Fear of failure, fear of pain, fear of rejection. Sometimes the fear is just of making a decision, because what if you're wrong? What if you make a mistake you can't undo? Whatever it is we're afraid of, one thing holds true, that by the time the pain of not doing the thing gets worse than the fear of doing it, it can feel like we're carrying around a giant tumor. And you thought I was speaking metaphorically. And that's when they show the patient that has the massive tumor. And Meredith sets us up for our work today in this episode because, yes, we avoid things so deeply. And oftentimes the avoidance gets bigger than the actual thing we're avoiding. So let's dive into the episode and get into the work so that we can all stop avoiding the things we need to face. Okay, so the scene, what's happening in this episode? There are so many parallel situations that are happening in this episode that are all having to do with avoidance. So, like I said, this character that has this tumor growing on her stomach, and she let it just sit like that for a year. She even says, like, I haven't left the house for a year. And she's just like letting it happen. She's avoiding what's happening to her. She's not going to the doctor. And also her mom is avoiding it. Like, she isn't like asking her kid to go into the hospital and get this checked. They're both being very just like laissez-faire, like whatever, like it doesn't matter. Also, Meredith is avoiding making a decision on Derek. She goes back and forth a lot in this episode saying, yes, I'm going to break up with him. I have to break it off. No, I'm not going to break it off. And she's avoiding. She doesn't know what she wants to do. And she just keeps going like into why it's fun. She wants him, but she knows it's wrong. All of this, there's avoidance there. George, who we know is in love with Meredith, he keeps avoiding talking to her and just directly confronting her with how he feels about her. He's doing these like kind of side actions for her by like bringing her coffee and being kind to her, but he's avoiding the actual conversation. And then Christina and Dr. Burke are in their kind of fling at this point. They're having sex. And at the end of them having sex, it's early in the episode, Burke asks her, like, should we talk about this? And she says, yeah, sure, and walks out. And she doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to define the relationship. She just wants to keep being in the present. And she's avoiding that conversation. So all of these are happening at once. And these are all such amazing like examples of avoidance, because one is avoidance of health. One is avoidance of like, am I supposed to be in this situation like Meredith with Derek, right? Avoidance of really looking at this relationship dynamic I'm in. George is avoiding a conversation, and Christina is too. And maybe George is also avoiding getting real about how he feels about Meredith in a way that would actually force him to go into this conversation and actually tell her how he feels. And we know all of this is happening because Derek literally names it. So I'm going to read a little back and forth between Derek and Meredith. It's at the start of the episode. Meredith arrives to work, bumps into Derek, and he says, "You're avoiding me." Meredith says, "Yes, but also late." Derek, "Okay, are we going to talk about this?" Meredith, "No." Derek, "About us and Bailey and what she saw?" Meredith, "I don't need to talk about it. I experienced it naked." Derek, "This is getting complicated." Meredith, "Complicated for me. I'm the intern sleeping with the attending. Bailey isn't speaking to me anymore." Derek, "That's not a bad thing. If I was a better guy, I'd walk away." He's such a little shit. Meredith, "Yes, you would." Derek, "Do you want me to be a better guy?" Meredith, "Yes." "No." "Crap, I'm late." And then she walks away. And Derek says, "Take your time, think about it." And so, yeah, right there, she's just like, she doesn't know what she wants. She wants him to walk away. She's almost asking him to make the decision for her. You know, she's not like confronting it. She's avoiding it. And if he made the decision for her, in a lot of ways, it would be easier for her because she wouldn't have to actually face what's going on. And there's another scene too in this episode about avoidance, and a character calls another character out. George brings Meredith coffee, and he's trying to hold 2 cups of coffee and also knock on her bedroom door. And he spills coffee all over himself. It's very awkward. It's very classic George O'Malley. And Izzy walks by, and George has coffee all over his shirt, all over his pants. And Izzy says, "Wouldn't it just be easier if you asked her out?" And so she's just calling him on it. hey, you're avoiding having the conversation you actually want to have. And that would be way easier than spilling boiling hot coffee all over yourself before you head to work. And the shadows. So, what's going on underneath the surface? As we talked about, avoidance is fear, right? It's like fear, as Meredith says in the voiceover, fear of rejection, fear of pain. It's fear maybe of vulnerability. And it's like over reliance on ourselves. So, avoidance gets kind of romanticized as confidence. I can do it. Don't worry about it. I don't need anybody. I don't have to feel this. I'm just going to go on. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But it's not going into what actually needs to be felt. And all of these characters are just living in a state of numbness, of like creating experiences or suppressing experiences to avoid feeling what's actually there. And that is really sad because some of them are creating chaos to avoid feeling it. Some of them are feeling numb to avoid feeling it. But these characters are not sitting with what's actually there and like taking it head on and making a decision. So this is what's like happening underneath their decisions. So what's hot is at the end of the episode, Meredith decides she's going to just be vulnerable and go for Derek. She waits outside of the hospital next to his car. She's got a bottle of wine in her bag and she says, I know a place where you can see the sunset or the sunrise over the ferry boats. And he says, I have a thing for ferry boats. And she says, I remember. So it's this, finally she's not avoiding it. She made the decision. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be with him. And it's super hot and it's super sweet. And they get into the car and, we can assume they drive off to that beautiful lookout place and they watch the sunrise over the ferry boats together. And what's harmful is all of the avoidance. So all of these characters are being disconnected from their feelings. They are compartmentalizing and it's costing them immensely, like especially the character who has the massive tumor. She dies because she avoided this health risk for a year and a half. She just let it grow. And it is so harmful to live that way with our body and our emotions. It's just as harmful. And to just kind of move through life like, I don't have to feel it. It's okay. I'm going to keep going. Don't worry. Or I'm going to create all of this chaos, or I'm going to create suppression, or I'm just going to make sure I don't feel anything. It's very, very harmful. One, for intimacy. Two, for our self-trust. Three, for our nervous systems. Like our body starts to code all of that into our being. And if we aren't feeling things, it'll get stuck in the body. It'll turn up as chronic pain or illness or anything like that. And like, what if this person's tumor is like, an embodiment of how they feel about themselves or what they think they deserve or their hatred for themselves? And she like really picks up on all the themes that this doctor or the doctors are saying about her. And it mirrors how she feels about herself. And Dr. Bailey even says it like, why would someone let a tumor grow for a year and a half if they didn't want to die? And so avoidance is literally killing us. It's killing us and it's killing our relationships. It's killing our potential to experience ourselves, our potential to become our fullest selves, our potential for intimacy, our potential for deep, beautiful connection, for healing. It's literally killing us. And so I don't think I've overstated how harmful it is. Avoidance can kill you. And the political and cultural and gender norm dynamics at play, it's the same one, but it's getting more intense as the episodes go on. So it's this dynamic between Meredith and Derek and how it is way riskier for her than it is for him. So in the last episode, Bailey caught them having sex in the car and she hasn't let it go. And she's making Meredith jump through hoops this entire episode. And she feels like Derek is favoring Meredith. And she even says, if I see you favoring her again, I will make sure that Meredith doesn't see the inside of an OR for a month. So, Meredith's career and her education is literally getting jeopardized. And in a scene, Meredith comes to Bailey and she tries to clear things up. This exchange happens. And I think it just really perfectly encapsulates what we've been talking about in our episodes about how Meredith has to carry it, because Derek doesn't really have that much that happens to him. He just like gets a slap on the wrist. But this is the exchange between Meredith and Bailey. Meredith says, Dr. Bailey, I didn't know that he was my boss when I met him. I didn't know. Bailey says, I don't care. Meredith says, really? Oh, well, you seemed to not be talking to me, so I. And Bailey says, you see what's happening right here? This is the problem with you sleeping with my boss. Not whether or not you knew him before, but how it affects my day. And me standing here talking to you about your sex life affects my day. And the longer this little fling goes on, the more favors you get over the others who are fighting tooth and nail just to make it through this program without any assistance. When those people start finding out what's going on and they don't want to work with you and talk to you or look at you, and they start bitching and moaning at me, the more it affects my day. So no, Dr. Gray, I don't care what you know or when you knew it. Are we understood? Meredith says yes, and Bailey says good, and Meredith walks out of the door. So even with Meredith trying to do the right thing, there is a bigger cultural influence at play. Meredith innocently slept with a man at a bar. He didn't tell her he was his, like, they didn't talk about the fact that, they work at the same hospital. And Meredith didn't do anything wrong. She caught feelings for her boss and she's trying to sort through it. But there is a bigger political dynamic that isn't escapable for her because she is still an intern and he is still an attending. And that's what Bailey is speaking to. She's literally saying it doesn't matter how this started, it's going to have a big impact on you and you should get ready. And I don't want any part of it. And so no matter if Meredith tries to do the right thing or was innocent at the start, there are just big forces that she can't stop. And that's true in so many situations that even if you try to do the right thing, there are other forces at play that could keep you in trouble, that could keep you looked at in a bad light by your peers or your supervisors. And Meredith is fighting that in this episode. So what does this episode teach us about desire? So we can have a desire to quote unquote stay safe in avoidance more than we can want to actually look at what's going on underneath the surface and what is causing us to repeat toxic relationship patterns. And if we stay in a cycle of desiring to not look at the things and just stay safe and in our own little bubble and in our own chaos, because we can create chaos to avoid feeling something. I'm sure we have all seen characters like this in TV. Like they have the busy job, they have the chaotic relationships, they keep putting things in their lives to avoid actually looking at what's going on. It's because they desire the escapism from what's actually being felt or needs to be felt more than they desire to heal it, feel it, and move on. And so this is what this episode is showing us, that like desire to be distracted and avoidant is so powerful. And even though it keeps bringing us pain, and in the case of the patient that dies, literally kill us, our desire to avoid feeling is so big. And if we don't slow down and kind of look at it, we're going to stay in that pattern for forever. And it could kill us. And at a minimum, it could kill our relationships, which is like so important, because what is life without a relationship and quality relationships and all, like knowing ourselves and knowing how we tick. So this is a really important part of desire for this episode. And it leads us right into attachment. So avoidant attachment style, we've probably all heard about this at this point. It's all over the internet. And avoidant attachment is like the over self-reliance that keeps us, in this bubble I've been talking about. And it's rejecting true closeness for fear of vulnerability, for fear of being seen, and this like masking as confidence. And it's keeping us from what we want. It's not actually confidence. It's just keeping us in this place that's like, I'm okay. I don't need to worry about it. I can just stay where I am and I can keep doing my thing. And we find things that look like a healthy life or look like we're trying hard or look like intimacy, but there's so much happening inside of us that isn't being looked at. So the attachment style here is just like suppress and over self-rely. And that's not what is breeding good intimacy. And what this is teaching us about communication is that oftentimes the avoidance of communicating with someone that we need to have a conversation with, or communicating with ourselves about like how we really feel, or a trusted practitioner, oftentimes the avoidance of that is so much worse than the actual communication itself. We have all put off a conversation we don't want to have. And oftentimes, by the time we have the actual conversation, it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be. So, again, the avoidance can be worse than the actual thing we're avoiding. All right, let's go into the session. So, I'm going to do something a little bit different because there are so many characters avoiding things in this episode. We're going to pretend like we're doing a seminar for Seattle Grace Hospital. So I'm going to sit down all of the characters who are being avoidant. In fact, let's just have the whole hospital listen to this seminar because it is very useful in a traumatic environment like this hospital. My goodness. So we're going to talk about the difference between fear and avoidance. So everybody come in and sit down, take a breath. Let your shoulders go. Let them sink 1 inch lower than they've probably been sitting today. And let's describe fear. So what fear can feel like in your body is like your body is saying, pay attention, something's happening right now. Somatically, it could feel like racing heart, shortness of breath, heightened alertness, tightness in the chest and the throat, goosebumps, sense of urgency, aliveness running through the body, eyes are widening, breath gets shallow and fast. Your body is like mobilizing to take action. So fear is an activation in the body. We all know what this feels like. And so that is there, right? The fear is the activation. The avoidance is the suppression of the activation. So it's an action the body might take if the feeling feels too big. So imagine like when an activation comes up, and we're going to use fear because it's so visceral. Fear comes up and we go, oh, I'm going to do something else to distract myself from the fear. I'm going to open my phone. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to put on a TV show. I'm going to think about anything else. That's the avoidance. And then when we feel like this, like push down rather than like a metabolizing of the emotion, that's avoidance. So fear is the activation. Avoidance is the suppression of the activation. So a little tip I want to give everyone, a little fun insight. So the brain scientist Jill Bolte Taylor, author of My Stroke of Insight, talks about how when we are feeling an emotion, it's the pulses in our brain that have that emotional experience last about 90 seconds. The reason we can stay in an emotion all day is because we recreate the thought loop and we keep going back to the thoughts that are in that emotion and give us that kind of like activation. So let's use this as a tool. I want you to, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to pause this podcast and just like be wherever you are. First, though, we're going to ground the body a little bit. So I just want you to notice that your feet are on the ground, maybe drop your heels a few times. Remind yourself that you're here, that you're safe, that your body is in this chair. And I want you to pause. And I want you in a moment to feel the emotion of fear only at 1%, though, for 90 seconds. So literally, you're going to set a timer on your phone for 90 seconds. You're going to feel the emotion of fear. After you feel it and you hear the alarm go off, cancel the alarm. And I want you to shake out your entire body. And what I hope this does is it shows your body that feeling fear is not going to kill you. Oftentimes we think if I feel the bigness of this emotion, it can kill me. And that's literally what it can feel like in the body. But let's remind the body that that isn't true, actually. And you can do anything for 90 seconds. So take this moment, pause the podcast, go feel fear for 90 seconds, and then shake out every single part of your body and come back and we'll finish the episode. So pause now. I'm so proud of you for going off and doing that. It's a really big deal to just sit with fear. And I hope this reminds you, like, you can feel anything, you can do anything. And it's not going like feeling an intense feeling isn't going to kill you. It does feel that way though. Sometimes if we're like, this wave feels so big, just feel 1% of it. Just allow yourself to sit with a little bit of fear and do it for 90 seconds. And what this teaches you is confidence. And what this teaches your body is that I can get through this. It's okay. I'm going to be fine. And I would be so excited to hear what your experience is of it, to just feel the arc of that emotion and for you to come out the other side and know, like, I've got this. I don't have to avoid how I feel. And imagine on the other side of that 90 seconds, the confidence of like, oh, I was avoiding feeling that feeling and I just did it. And now I don't have to avoid it anymore. And maybe we're avoiding a conversation because of fear. Maybe we're avoiding going to the doctor because of fear. But the moment we show our body that fear, that sensation of fear isn't going to kill us, we're so liberated. It's so freeing to go, oh, okay, that's what fear feels like. Got it. So your hot tip for this week is to schedule a date one time this week to feel an uncomfortable emotion for 90 seconds. It's a physiological experience in the body. So there's no like need to categorize this is a bad emotion, this is a good emotion. There's just emotions that are more comfortable than others to feel because we gravitate towards those more. So schedule a date to feel something uncomfortable for 90 seconds. Make sure you do a little grounding first, maybe some heel drops, feel your emotion, and then shake out your body. It should take you a maximum of 2 minutes to do the whole thing, maybe 2.5. And it builds confidence in the nervous system of like, oh, I don't have to avoid this. I've got what it takes to feel this. And your little micro reflection question and ritual is to first ask yourself, like, what's a situation I've been avoiding? And then once you identify the situation, see if you can identify the feeling that you feel attached to that situation. So maybe you've been avoiding having a conversation with somebody, and then ask yourself, why am I avoiding a feeling I think is going to happen when I have that conversation with this person? And then feel that for 90 seconds and show your body you can do it. Remember, avoidance actually doesn't get us healthy relationships. It doesn't get us intimacy that's true intimacy. It just keeps us in patterns of over self-reliance, putting so much stress on the body when we could just like metabolize our feelings, have uncomfortable conversations, and move through it. Avoidance is like another way of saying, like, I don't trust myself to handle this, so I'm going to put it off. And I don't trust myself to feel the feelings attached to it, so I'm going to put it off. So my challenge for you is to build the confidence to move through these uncomfortable situations so you don't have to live in your bubble anymore, and you can start accepting real, true, amazing intimacy that isn't afraid to feel intense feelings. And you can do it. Like, you can totally do it. It sounds really scary. I'm someone who feels very intensely. And I've been able to teach myself little by little that I can like sit with an uncomfortable feeling and get to the other side. And we're all practicing together. Believe me, I am practicing too. And you've got this. And if you do any of the practices in this episode, I really want to hear about it. Please put a comment on this podcast episode or send me a DM. And I would, just so love to hear how you moved through difficult emotions and how you freed yourself from them. And now let's wrap it up with Meredith's voiceover outro. So she says, the early bird catches the worm. A stitch in time saves 9. He who hesitates is lost. We can't pretend we haven't been told. We've all heard the proverbs, heard the philosophers, heard our grandparents warning us about wasted time, heard the damn poets urging us to seize the day. Still, sometimes we have to see for ourselves. We have to make our own mistakes. We have to learn our own lessons. We have to sweep today's possibility under tomorrow's rug until we can't anymore, until we finally understand for ourselves what Benjamin Franklin meant. That knowing is better than wondering, that waking is better than sleeping, and that even the biggest failure, even the worst, most intractable mistake beats the hell out of never trying. It's like, that's it. Thank you, Meredith Grey. That's it. I promise you, the self-confidence of knowing I can feel this, I can move through this, I can trust myself, and I don't have to avoid anymore is so much better than the avoidance. It's so much better than that false sense of reality that is numbed, that is put behind a wall of chaos and keeps your nervous system strung out in an unhealthy way. I promise going for it and feeling it is so much better than the alternative. Do it. Have the bravery to feel uncomfortable, have the bravery to feel your uncomfortable emotions, and have the bravery to move through and build the self-confidence to live a life that is alive and connected. And I love this episode. I love how just direct it is with the message. And I'm so glad you were here to listen. If you would like to go deeper, I always write a blog post based on the podcast episodes. So go to my blog. It's on my website, which will be in the show notes, but my website is yourbodyyourstory.com. You can also follow me across all social media at The Honest Sexologist. Don't forget to grab my couples connection guide, and you can stop avoiding the feeling of disconnection and having that uncomfortable conversation of, hey, we feel really distant. Let's try to reconnect. The guide is supposed to be really fun. It's designed to be really fun so you can come into each other's connection and be playful. So grab the couples connection guide. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast for season 2, send me a DM. And I'm just thrilled you are a listener of 50 Shades of Grays. And I hope you continue to evolve. And I hope you are falling more in love with Grey's Anatomy with me as I do this show and do more research. And I'm so proud of all the work you are doing. And we will see you on the next episode of 50 Shades of Grays. I love you, you messy humans.